I don't know if I'm live or not yet. There's this new Facebook thing happening, and it looks like I'm live, but I don't know if it's working. So, if anyone is out there, maybe let me know if you're there or not, because this is the new live video thing for Facebook, and it's really confusing me. So, I hope you're there. And I'm just going to jump into our topic for today and trust that this is all working the way it's supposed to. So, I'm Jem Madrone, and today I'm going to talk about the fear and feelings of death that come up during the awakening process, during the egoic death process. Now, this is more specific to the egoic death process, which is often part of the awakening process and often the more difficult and destructive feeling part of the process. And these fears of death can come up in very real ways. And it can feel like we just know that we're going to die, or we just know that we are dying, or we have this feeling, even though we know it's not really rational, that we're dying. And it feels very physical, and it feels very real, and it feels very overwhelming. And it's often accompanied by a whole lot of grief. And it can be something that really just knocks us on our ass, because obviously, when we feel like we're dying, when we know we're dying, or when we just have that incredible feeling inside of us that something is dying, it's going to change how we live our life, at least for that time period, or how we experience our life. And if we're not really aware of what's happening, it can be really, really challenging to deal with this. We may feel like we're going crazy, or we may feel like we have to go to the doctor and get checked up because we're sure we have some fatal disease. And so it can really put a huge damper on our life. It can really take everything over, because no matter how much we try to talk ourselves out of it, or how much other people try to talk us out of it, we know that something deep is dying, because it is. And this egoic death process can be sparked by particular experiences in our life, or it can be something that happens spontaneously or even gradually, where it sneaks up on us, and all of a sudden we're like, wow, like, I'm not sure where this feeling came from, but here it is, and I don't know what to do with it. And so, when this happens, we have to honor the fact that there is something dying in us. And the old part of us that we've lived from and that we've known to be us for so long is what's dying and is what's being released. And as it leaves the body, there's often those death throes, and there's also the grief of that loss, because our identity is wrapped up in what is dying. Who we thought we were and how we showed up in this world is part of what's dying. And so there's a lot of grief that has to be felt and released and moved through at this time. And so it's really important to give ourselves the space to go through this. If you feel like it's really hard to function in the world, go to your job, talk to your friends, go out and have a good time. Um, you're right. It is really hard to do all of those things. And it's important to honor those feelings, to take the time for ourselves to go through the grieving process. And at the same time, when we give ourselves the space to go through that grieving process, we're also giving ourselves the space to feel what the new thing is that's coming through, that we're now able to connect with and identify with, that's being rebirthed in us as that old is dying. But if we're busy, if we ignore the process, if we try to medicate it, self medicate it, then we're going to miss that opportunity to really connect with what is being birthed inside of us, because that's the whole point of the egoic death process, is to release those things that are blocking us, that are those walls that have been built over time, over the years, through your life, through trauma, through all of your childhood experiences, to break down those walls, to move them out of the way so that we can now experience ourselves as who we truly are and connect with that authentic nature. Now, I find it really interesting that the what we're going through right now globally with this coronavirus pandemic is so much paralleling the awakening process. And so a lot of these fears are coming up for people right now, especially people who are already in the process of transformation. These are coming up even stronger, these fears of death, feeling like we're dying, and incredible grief. And how I see it, because I see so many parallels in the awakening process and in what we're going through as a planet right now. I can see that the planet is going through an egoic death process at the moment. And so a lot of the grief that we're feeling is the planetary grief, the global grief, as the old structures are dropping away so that the new ones can come through. And so this is a super powerful time for us as a planet and as individuals, because we have all of this supportive energy to help us go through our own process of egoic death and of rebirth and of awakening. And we're also seeing it on this global level so that we can be reborn really as a species. And I know that's a big concept, but I also believe that the planet has gone through very many, or I don't know about many, definitely have gone through egoic death processes before, when these, really big events happen that affect the whole planet. Just like humans often go through many egoic death processes in a lifetime, so does the planet. And we're in the middle of one right now. And so if you're feeling these fears, you're feeling overwhelmed by this emotion and this grief, then, you're, first of all, you're definitely not alone, and you're right on track for this transformational process that is happening so that we can all be reborn as our true and authentic selves. And so I'm just sending you all so much love during this process and during this time. And if you're really struggling and stuck in this death process, because that often happens, we get stuck and weighted down in this place of death. And I remember being in this place for quite a long time until I finally called a friend and a mentor and teacher and helped pull me out of it. And I was able to go through the rebirth process at that time, but it was essential that I have help. So sometimes we really need that guidance. And so if you're looking for some guidance through this process so that you can move through it more quickly and smoothly and gracefully, then please reach out to me and send me a private message. Tell me a little bit about what you're going through, and we can set up some time to talk and see if the work that I do with my clients would be a good fit for you. So sending so much in love and strength to you all. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions, just leave them here, and I will see you in the Facebook group. Have a great night.